Hello, welcome to Unit 1, Lesson 9. So this one is just really, truly an extension of what you learned in Lesson 8 with multiplying binomials. So in Lesson 8, you saw two different methods to multiply binomials, either using the box method or also known as an area model, and then you also saw the vertical standard algorithm way. Today in this lesson, you're going to learn a third way to multiply binomials, and then from there, then it's just up to you to decide which of those methods makes the most sense to you and which one do you want to use moving forward when you're solving these problems all on your own. So first up, this exercise number 1 is just kind of a picture of why the multiplying binomials stuff works the way that it does. So it's got these three expressions up here: x plus 3 times x plus 5, x squared plus 15, and then x squared plus 8x plus 15. And it wants you to use x equals 3 and x equals 5 to see which of these three is equal or equivalent to the other. So what we're going to do there is we're going to plug in 3 in place of the x's in each of these problems. Like so. And the next line is going to have you do the same exact thing, except they want you to plug in a 5 instead of a 3. So if you work these out and follow the order of operations, what you're trying to look for is, are there two of them that have the same value? So on the first one, 3 plus 3 is 6. And then 3 plus 5 is 8. Excuse me, I'm sleepy. So 6 times 8 is 48. On the second one, we get 3 squared, which is 9, plus 15. 9 plus 15 is 24, which is not equal to 48. So let's see what we get on the third one. We get 9 here, plus 8 times 3 is 24, plus 15. So 9 plus 24, that's 33. And if I add 15 to 33, I get 48. So on this first example, we get a 48 here and a 48 here. Pause the video now, and then you do the same process on the bottom row with the x equals 5 and see if you come up with two more equivalent expressions there. All right, after you've worked those out, you should see that you get 80 here and 80 here again. So in both examples, we get this expression is equal or equivalent to the last expression. And so the middle expression is not equivalent to either of those. And so that paints a picture of exactly what it means when you're multiplying binomials, is that you typically are going to be getting this middle term. So if you just glance at x plus 3 and x plus 5, you might be tempted to think that x squared plus 15 is the same thing, because x times x squared, 3 times 5, 15. But what you're forgetting when you just glance at it that way is that you're actually multiplying each of these terms times each other. So there's far more going on than just x times x and 3 times 5, which you saw in the last lesson when you were doing the area models. So let's move on to what we have on the next example. Oh, okay, here we go. All right, so like I said, it can be misleading for you to just look at the problems and see, oh, well, there's an x and an x, and there's a number and a number, so let's multiply those together. So this exercise kind of breaks that whole process down and shows you the steps that justify what's happening. Go ahead and right now on your paper and cross out where it says step 2, cross out this little part and this little part, because that is just confusing when you're reading this. So what you're looking at is from here to here, and then from there to there, and there to there, and there to there. So this is the flow, and these are just extra examples that are there to distract you. So get rid of those. So we have x plus 3 being multiplied times x plus 5. And what they have done here in this first step is they took the x plus 3 and they wrote it out twice because x plus 3 is being multiplied times x and times 5. What they're showing you is that we are actually distributing x times 3 and 5 times this whole thing. So that's a distributive property. And that's what we're going to be doing in this lesson is practicing using just the distributive property to multiply binomials as opposed to drawing the area models or using the algorithm. All right, so when we multiply x times 3 and x times x and 5 times x and 5 times 3, that actually looks like this: x times x, 3 times x times 5, 3 times 5, which again is going to be the distributive property. And then finally, you can see on this next step that they are rearranging some things, but really they are combining like terms. We're getting them all side by side. So we got all of our x's side by side, our 3 plus 5, and then our 3 times 5. So that's going to be the commutative property where they rearrange stuff to get things side by side that need to go together. So then finally, x times x, that makes x squared. X times 3 plus 5, that's where this 8x comes from. And then 3 times 5 is 15. It looks really complicated when you see it all written out horizontally like that. So stick with me. Don't decide that this is too hard just yet. We're going to do some examples that are going to make it much more clear than this. I just wanted you to see this example because you might see something like that on a test, and I want you to know how to read this. They have distributive property just demonstrated in two different ways, and then the commutative property to rearrange the terms. Don't let me lose you just yet. Keep with me. Okay, are you still with me? Please tell me you're still with me. I'm going to go through these and kind of make this a lot more clear for you. And remember that if this method that I'm showing you does not make sense to your brain and you prefer one of the methods that you saw in lesson 8, you can still use those methods. I'm just trying to provide you with as many tools and ways to solve these types of problems as possible. And then you decide which one works best for you. So in exercise 3, we're just going to practice doing the distributive property. So what is happening here in each of these multiplying binomials problems is that the two terms that are in the front have to each get multiplied by the two terms that are in the second set of parentheses. So if you think of that as distributive property, you can take the first set of parentheses and break it apart and distribute it twice. So we still have our x, we still have our 6, and we're just multiplying each of those individually times x plus 3. So x times x is x squared, and x times 3 is 3x. And down here, 6 times x is 6x, and 6 times 3 is 18. If you remember from the last lesson, this looks very similar to that box method or area model that we were doing. You just don't have the actual box, but you've got 4 terms and your like terms are diagonal from each other. Your 3x and your 6x need to be added together. So that makes 9x plus 18 goes at the end, and then we bring our x squared down to get our final answer of x squared plus 9x plus 18. Each one of these should end up getting 3 terms, an x squared, an x all by itself, and a number all by itself. So when you're working these out, that should happen for all of them, no matter what numbers you've got. I'm going to show you another way that's still distributed property, just doesn't involve writing it out like I did. So if you literally will just draw your arrows, let's go ahead and multiply that. X times X, that's X squared. X times 9, that's positive 9X. Okay, and then we've got to do the same thing with the negative 4. Negative 4 times X is negative 4X, and negative 4 times 9 is negative 36. So for your final step, you're just going to not multiply, you're going to combine right there in the middle. Your like terms are side by side. 9X minus 4X is 5X. So your final answer is X squared plus, because that was positive, 5X minus 36. Real quick, last thing, I want to just get this set up for you. Anytime you have a set of parentheses squared, that means that set of parentheses 2 times. So you're just doing x minus 3 times another x minus 3 on this one. So using either the double distributing property here, like I have drawn out, or just keeping track of your little arrows to make sure that you multiply the first term times both of these and the second term times both of these. Go ahead and do C, D, E, and F. When you are finished with those 4, see me to get the answer key and check those so that we can talk about it and make sure that you're on the right track. I'm going to stop the video here.